It's Monday, December 15th, 2025. That means it's time for the Knee Jerks podcast of Eno, Nick, and Big Al. I don't really have any snarky comments today because I'm thrown off. This is the first time I've been doing the podcast actually from my home base in Southeast Michigan. Feels like I've been doing every damn show from up north for the past several months, but with the weather changing, and it's there's like a foot of snow on the ground up there. We've come back home for the holidays essentially, so things are kind of back to normal here at the Knee Jerks podcast. That means as also that our regular panel is with us today. Joining me as always is our West Coast correspondent, Nick Milanovich. Nick, how are things out in Seattle?
Well, it was much better than last weekend. We had that atmospheric river, which I'd never heard of before, but that was a lot of water. That's a lot.
I mean, you're used to water, but that was a bit. There was flooding and the whole 9 yards out there, wasn't there?
Oh, it was raining heavy. So usually, it rains like a long time, meaning like 9 months, and but it's very, very light. It's not like a Michigan rain. It's you can go out in this stuff. It's tolerable. Yeah, but this was water pooling up in a lot of places. I'm just thankful I live on high ground. Otherwise, because if I were getting flooded, that's like shit out of the Bible, right? So,
yeah. I got to be honest. I prefer snow over rain any day of the week. I don't know how my co-host here feels about it. My long-term partner of this podcast, Greg Eno, who is also here in Southeast Michigan. Greg, do you prefer the rain or the snow?
I like anything you don't have to shovel or use a snowblower on. So
there you go. Yeah.
It's pretty to look at. It's pretty to look at. It's not nice to drive in. I'm okay if it snows or I'm indoors. I can be cozy, watch it all take place. But if I have to get out and drive in it, no.
All right.
Al, well, you would change your mind if you had to drive on the hills around here in the snow.
Oh yeah.
Because I've slid backwards in my car a couple of times. Not fun. No. I'll take the rain over that. That's that's next level nuts. So,
all right. Our next topic will be the polar vortex. All right. With that, let's start talking about what we're here to actually discuss. There's a lot going on in Detroit sports, but before that, got to get out a few plugs. But don't forget that Greg actually wrote about in his column today on Substack about what's going on with the Lions, which we will discuss later on in the show. And so, Greg, why don't you tell everybody where they can get to your Substack?
Yeah, gregeno.substack.com is the Addy, as the kids say. Please go there, subscribe. I will be in your inbox every Monday. I'm pleased to announce that my subscriber base has grown. It's getting bigger, and I appreciate that. Follow me on Twitter or X. At Greg Eno, and of course follow the Knee Jerks on X.
Indeed,
at Knee Jerks. We have a full boat tonight. We are going to go guestless, which is okay. But we have a lot to talk about. But before we get to any of that great stuff that Al's got on the agenda tonight, we're going to play a game we like to call "Whose Birthday Is It, Maestro?" Everybody knows how we play this game by now. I give Al and Nick a clue or two or three of an individual whose birthday it is today in the world of sports. And if either of those gentlemen can correctly guess that person within the first two clues, they'll receive the riveting book and very thin book, Great College Basketball Teams of Canada.
The answer to today's question is Jim Leyland.
No, it's not. That's a good one. It is the skipper's birthday. It is. That's a good one.
How old is he anyway, by the way?
81.
81, damn.
Yeah, good stuff.
I'm sure he's smoking a cigarette right now as we talk.
Can you believe that he was hired 20 years ago in October of 2005? I can't believe it.
I can't.
Holy cow.
Unbelievable. This person, however, made his name in the world of football, and he did it close to home here in Detroit, partially in the NFL. I will tell you that he was a rotund one who was a third-round pick in 1987 of the Detroit Lions.
Jerry Ball.
Very good.
Oh, Nick, you beat me to it.
Good. Jerry Ball.
I needed the Christmas present.
Oh, my gosh, that's
If
great.
you get it to me this week, I have the perfect person for
I'll
it.
get it right out to you. The great college basketball teams of Canada is yours. And Jerry Ball, 61 years old today. He played 6 years with the Lions, played a year with the Browns, 3 years with the Raiders, 2 years with the Vikings, and then back to the Browns. I didn't know he had a 13-year career. I didn't know he played for 13 years in the NFL.
Oh, wow.
He was one of those players that was good, but I think in Detroit we made him look better. You know, we made him seem like he was an all-pro. Yeah. He was good. He wasn't great, but he was good. He was good. He was a nose tackle, and he was. They used to list him on the graphic on Fox Sports at 6'1", 295. And if Jerry Ball was 295, I'm 125. He was more like 335 is what Jerry played at. I don't know what Fox was thinking, but he was a good player. I like Jerry Ball. He was a good player. He had kind of an interesting personality. And good job, Nick, getting on the first blue there. Good job.
Yes, kudos.
Right on.
Because usually Greg's questions, and the first thing Nick says is, "I don't remember that. I'm too young."
Right. All I remember about Ball is that he was big.
Yeah.
He was hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
He complained a lot.
He did complain a lot. Wouldn't you?
Huh?
And,
if I were on the Lions, who would?
Yeah, at that era, yes. Yeah, for some reason, a play 6'9", didn't he have a fat guy touchdown at one point, I believe? I'm almost positive he did.
He might have, yeah. Like a fumble return or something?
Yeah, fumble return or whatever, exactly.
Well, maybe you're thinking of Big Baby, Sean Rogers.
Yeah, that's probably who I'm thinking of, Sean Rogers, yes.
Big Baby.
Yes. Oh, gee. Yeah. And Nick's like, I remember these guys. Who's going? Yeah.
The 90s are a little bit of a blur, too, because I was in graduate school. My brain.
Okay, we'll save. Nick's hijinks for another podcast. So right now, well, I guess talking about hijinks in college, we might as well talk about Sherrone Moore. Nice segue, Nick. All right, but yeah, it's like I said, there's been fair amount going on in Detroit sports, but this has pretty much dominated. What's happened in Ann Arbor over the past couple of weeks has pretty much dominated the sports discourse locally, and it's literal insanity in Ann Arbor. Between this has been going on for a few years now, you know, with Signgate and Connor Stallions and the Manifesto and Shemmy Schembechler getting hired and he was never vetted, and there's a whole bunch of crap in his background, and everybody who seemed to work for Jim Harbaugh got a show cause penalty, and obviously after all the dust had settled, Sherrone Moore became the head coach when Harbaugh finally bolted back to the NFL after winning the national title. Yet this past week, things got even weirder in Ann Arbor as the Wolverines fired head coach Sherrone Moore with cause. The cause being he was a married man who was getting it on with his assistant in the athletic department. Apparently, there was an abortion involved. There was there's talk that she received like almost double, or pay got doubled. This sounds kind of like hush money, so to speak. Apparently, this has been an ongoing rumor in Ann Arbor and on the Michigan message boards for quite some time. But it finally came to a head this past week when the woman involved finally changed her story, because I guess her and Moore was doing the deny thing. Well, she finally said, "This is actually happening. I got receipts, blah, blah, blah." After getting fired by athletic director Warde Manuel, apparently Sherrone Moore, there was a lot of talk saying he was already having some mental illness struggles, or he was not right mentally. But after he got fired, an already unstable Moore had apparently a break of some sort, because he broke into the home of his mistress, I believe also his wife. There's a lot of stuff went on. Threatened suicide, grabbed knives, threatened to hurt himself, hurt other people. In the end, Moore was fired. And now faces charges of stalking, breaking and entering, and felony home invasion. Obviously, he's probably not going to serve time, But I think his college and his high level coaching career is probably over after all this. So, guys, Nick, you're an alum of the University of Michigan. And there's seems like Michigan has been in the news for almost all the wrong reasons, at least when it comes to football, for the past several years. And I think this might be it's finally come to a head, I think, with what's gone on with Moore, and now there's talk that Manuel is also being investigated for the athletic department just not doing its due diligence, because there's also been issues with the hockey team and also Juwan Howard, for that matter, who should have been fired when he hit Wisconsin's coach, for Christ's sake. So this is absolutely nuts, and I can't believe that. I know things have changed in sports, but for a school that always said we do things right, we have integrity, this is a complete 180 from what their actions. They're like their actions speak completely differently of how they promote themselves. I guess that's the best way to put it.
You know, I'm like, you rattled off so many kind of little scandals that I forgot some of this shit. Like, I don't even remember some of them. And the pattern seems similar, like with Juwan Howard and with Sherrone Moore and even with Harbaugh. If the team is doing well, they kind of look the other way. Yeah. At least it's been in the last few years. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would have been the case, say, 15, 20 years ago, before Warde Manuel. But it's certainly the case. With Juwan Howard's teams were doing fairly well at the times he slapped the Wisconsin coach. Then he slapped somebody else after that, I think.
Yeah, they had a few outbursts that were just completely...
I mean, it's like total anger management. It's like,
exactly.
Like, where the hell did this come from? And it's like, okay, this is getting dumb. It was kind of going into Bobby Knight territory. And then the team started doing poorly, and Howard was still acting like a jerk. And it's like, okay, you won like 5 games or whatever it was. It was pretty bad, and you're gone. And that's kind of what happened with Moore too, right?
Yeah,
In the end, you finally start playing poorly, it's a reason to get rid of you. Heck, the kind of thing sort of happened with Michigan State with Tucker too.
Yeah,
they fired him for cause after all this like harassment thing blew up. He had a bad season the year before. It didn't sound like he was going to have that much of a good season, coming up. So, and I think that's par for the course for college football, and I think it'll be the case going forward too, especially if some of these coaches in the buyouts we've been seeing lately. Who's going to try and get out of that, $54 million buyout to Brian Kelly if they could?
Yeah.
They can't apparently, but you're going to see a lot of that. As alumni, I hope they clean this up. This is embarrassing. It's surreal. The Moore thing is kind of the weirdest thing around that we've seen in Michigan. Yeah. You've had some other extramarital affair kind of weird stuff go on elsewhere too. At other schools, but no, Warde Manuel's being looked at, and he probably should be for having turned a blind eye. But honestly, which other athletic director is not going to turn a blind eye? Yeah, are they going to do any different? It's going to cost them a lot of money to be clean and have an under 500 record. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. I hope they can clean it up with whoever they're going to hire next. So.
Yeah, and the other thing is that he's kind of stumbled ass backwards into having the number one hockey team in the country and the number one basketball team in the country. He's got it. But even though hockey went through this with Mel Pearson, who was their head coach before, I forgot who's coaching right now, but he got sent off in disgrace due to some sort of harassment issues, and obviously to Juwan Howard. But then he hit home runs with the replacements in both cases. But even still, it's always football that stirs the brink anymore. And what's funny, Greg, is that I know we talked about this when this first happened, is that It's this Gary Moeller getting fired for getting drunk in a restaurant seems actually quaint compared to this story.
Yeah, it sure does. That was a very public, unfortunately, for Mo, because that audio leaked when he was ranting and raving in the restaurant, and he was teary, and it was really pathetic. The audio that got leaked, got released about. So I don't know what somebody was recording at the Excalibur restaurant where that happened in Southfield.
Yeah,
he was, really sounded pathetic, and it just made it worse. But you're right; it does almost seem kind of quaint compared to what this kind of thing is. When we were finding it out live in our chat, the group chat, and then Nick was kind of updating us with things like there's police around his house.
Yes. I couldn't believe it at first. Like, what the hell? That can't be true.
I had to verify it. It was like, this made no sense.
Yeah, it just took a really weird, dark turn, and then it started to become really, scary, quite frankly. And
yeah,
I feel
exactly.
bad for that poor girl who he was terrorizing. I mean, we shouldn't be, I guess, surprised anymore when these kind of things happen. And these are people. They're as flawed as anybody else. I mean, you're supposed to obviously have a standard. You're supposed to be better. You're supposed to be better than that, and everything. But he's a man, and men do stupid shit sometimes. And this was certainly. It takes two to tango. That's true. He didn't have an affair by himself. That's true. And she knew darn well who he was. I'm not giving her a free pass. I don't want to make it sound like I am. But he's not the coach of the University of Michigan. He is. And so
and don't forget there's also the power dynamic involved where he's the boss.
Right.
So there's got to be at least some kind of pressure there. When your boss is hitting on you, and maybe she thinks her job depends on it. But but you're right. It's it does take two to tango. She could have just reported it immediately. And he could have been fired a year ago, and everybody's in a better place at this point. But it is what it is. I mean, I hate to use that term as much as I've been hearing it lately, but it is what it is. And now Michigan, and for one thing, it's absolutely ridiculous even to think about who they're going to get to replace him, because the timing is so weird, because the coaching carousel had essentially ended once Penn State filled their position. And all of a sudden, here's Michigan again. And the playoffs start this weekend, and bowl season is going on. So this is not exactly a prime time to be looking for coaches. And we're already seeing Michigan has interest in name a coach. Next thing you know, he gets a raise and an extension. I mean, we've seen that. Well, it was supposedly of Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State. That's the latest one. There's been a couple more out there. And we saw the same thing with Penn State. Someone had an interest. Next thing you know, the guy has signed an extension and gotten a raise. So who knows what's going to happen at this point? I just hope they get a better damn hire. And I don't know about you, Nick. The one thing that's always gotten me is that everybody says Michigan is a destination job. It's a top 5. It's probably a top 5 college job. Yet they seem to have they've had trouble. Other than Harbaugh, who was despite all the drama as a football coach, it was a home run pick. They have not had the best luck with trying to fill the job since Lloyd Carr left. I mean, Rich Rod was an absolute failure. Brady Hoke was an absolute joke. And now Sherrone Moore really has dragged Michigan through the mud. It's just odd how a school like Michigan has had so much trouble trying to find the guy, and I find it bonkers, because it seems like a school with that at least with the reputation of being a football school, a blue blood, and has the amount of money at its disposal with the boosters and the school itself and the stadium and everything else and the brand that goes with it. Yet some of these coaches turn into an absolute clown show.
What's interesting is from Bo to Lloyd Carr, that was all succession planning.
You're right.
And then Lloyd Carr. That was total succession planning from within.
Yep.
And it worked out well. I mean, Carr didn't set the world on fire, but he did win a national title.
National title, and Michigan was considered back then they did the right thing. You're
They
right.
ran a clean
No
program.
scandals. Yeah.
Right,
If there was an issue, we handled it. So right.
Exactly. They had the trouble when they were replacing Carr because that's when the whole thing. That was the first Les Miles. Like, are we going to get him?
Yep. That's right.
Insanity, and then they couldn't find somebody, and then they ended up with Rich Rod.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the whole Penn State fiasco right now reminds me of Rich Rod.
Yeah.
But then in comes whatever David Brandon, and then picks Brady Hoke, whatever the fuck his name is. Who was in so far over. Yeah, Rich Rod just didn't fit. His type of defense and offense didn't fit, and he really didn't fit the so-called culture. And that came out because he had a big scandal in Arizona with sexual harassment himself. But and Brady Hoke was just in over his head. He was just. Oh yeah, that was it. We need someone from Bo Schembechler's lineage, so they went right back to it with Hoke. And he just happened to be the biggest cheerleader possible, and
yes,
and it's the only time Michigan ever had a cheerleader for a football coach.
Yeah,
So, but they did well with Harbaugh after that.
Yeah,
and
that was say what you will, it was a home run hire in the end. Say what you will.
It was in a lot of ways. Harbaugh has his flaws. He can get on people's nerves. He has a limited shelf life with anybody. He just wears people down.
Yep.
Like anywhere he's gone, he's just gotten on people's nerves. But okay, was that a succession plan to have Sherrone Moore? Kind of, yes.
Kind of, yeah.
It's within. You were hoping, but nobody knew anything about Sherrone Moore.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about him. Really, not really.
Yeah.
It's not like he had been. I don't know how long he had been on the staff before that. I think he came in as a position coach or something, but
offensive line coach.
Yeah, and then worked his way up.
Yeah.
But, so I don't know what they're going to do now. It may be like other schools where it's no more succession planning, which it's just buy the hottest item out there if you can. I'll tell you, Ohio State between Urban Meyer and Ryan Day, that was succession planning.
Yeah.
When Meyer steps down, Ryan Day was on the staff, and they haven't missed a beat, really.
No,
to be honest.
not at all.
No,
they've stayed a good program, and surprisingly, overall, scandal free.
Yeah.
So.
Or they hide it better, one or the other.
They probably hide it better. Every one of them hides something, right?
Right, exactly.
It just depends on how big of a mess we're talking about.
Right.
So.
But
I don't know what they're going to do next. They need to. Yeah. They're either going to enter into the chaos everybody else is, just like buy the next coach, the next feeding frenzy for a head coach and staff, or they're going to go back. That's the one thing I hope they go back to, is that kind of like stability. Okay, we're going to create a good program. We're not going to fuck around. We're not going to put up with this shit from anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other issue is time is. Because some people are saying, well, maybe we should just go for an interim for the time being. The issue being the transfer portal. That opens up in less than a month. And you're going to lose. The odds are you're going to lose a lot of players if you say, yeah, we're going to keep Biff as our interim coach for just a year. People are the players are going to bail. They know there's no stability there, or no long-term stability there. So yeah, Michigan's going to have to find a coach, find them before in the next 2 weeks, and hopefully they make the right decision. Who knows? But anything other than that would be just pure speculation. It really is.
Yeah, and I don't even want to. I've heard a few names thrown out so many times. It's like I stopped listeing.
Yeah, exactly. It's always the same.
Something real.
And it's almost always the same names for the most part.
Exactly.
Yeah. Greg, speaking of coaches that. I don't know if they're on the hot seat or not. Or how is our good friend out at Eastern Michigan doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. Eastern, I think they finished 4-8 this year.
Yeah,
a rough year. They hit big quarterback problems. The bloom is off the rose for sure. Chris has been there. That we just finished his 12th year. I can't believe it. His 12th year.
Yeah,
and the last two have been pretty bad. The fan base is getting a little impatient. with him. Still no MAC championships, which is what they really want.
Yeah.
Love the bowl games. It was good to get in the bowl games. Finally win a bowl game. That was great. The Potato Bowl a few years ago, but it's been rough go since then. Western and Central have kind of overtaken them in terms of success within the state. So I would like to bring Chris back on, as we always do. We usually bring him on in the off season. I want to say I'll have to double check this, guys, but I think this was his last year of his contract. So we don't know if he's coming back necessarily. So I liked Eastern this is a really tricky one because they've never been in this position before where they've had to make this kind of decision on a coach because they've always been so down in the dumps that they just want to give anyone that they think can make them better. But now that they've tasted a little bit of success, they've kind of raised the bar a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see if they're in this weird situation they've never been in before, which is we don't have to make a decision based on trying to get back to respectability. We now have to make a decision based on, do we think this guy's worn out his welcome, which is really what the decisions can be made on, because the Eastern's never had a coach this long, not even Harkema for that many years in a row. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, but is it safe to say he's on the hot seat?
Yes, I would say that's safe. Yes.
Yeah, and that's got to be one of the hardest schools in the country to win at. It really does, especially being in the shadows of the University of Michigan.
You're right.
Yeah. All right. With that, we could move on. Well, I'll give it to you guys. You want to talk about the Lions' loss yesterday? What's going on with the Pistons, the Red Wings, or the Tigers?
By the way, Al, I made a mistake. Chris's contract, I was wrong, was extended.
Oh, really?
A couple of years ago. He's through 28. I'm sorry. I that's bad information. Bad job on my part.
No, that's no problem. Yeah, because I was. Yeah, when you were saying that, I was thinking if they were going to move on from him, they probably already would have, considering we've just been talking about the coaching carousel. So, all right, cool. Well,
but that still doesn't mean you can still be on the hot seat.
Yeah, exactly. But it's less. Yeah, a hot seat, yes. Being fired, no, because it's much less considering he's still got 3 years on his deal at a smaller school.
Right.
Much less likely to be bought out. Let's put it that way. I guess we should move on to more bad news, and that would be the Detroit Lions. I guess we'll go with the Lions. They lost to the Rams yesterday, and Matthew Stafford and his veneers, 41-34. The Lions are now 8-6. They must win out to even have a chance to make the playoffs. They would have 3 games left in the season, and they also need help. They no longer hold their own destiny. The Bears, the Bears or the Packers would need to go 1-2 at the end of the season, which is entirely possible, especially with the Bears, because the Lions do play the Bears at the end of the season. But much like last season, guys, it looks like a defense that has been decimated by injuries. That this time the injuries, for the most part, have been in the defensive backfield. When you lose 2 All-Pro safeties, and and both your starting cornerbacks for long periods of time. Arnold's out for the year. DJ Reed has recently come back, but does not look like the same player right now. Teams are just tearing them up, the passing game. But even worse was watching the Rams absolutely gash the Lions in the run game. And suppose for a team that has invested a lot in interior run stoppers, it was an absolute... It was not a good show at all by a team that takes its pride in playing physical and stuffing the run game and, imposing its will. It seems like the Lions' defense has stopped imposing their will on teams, unlike we've seen over the past couple of years. And at this point, there's nothing you can do to fix it. Essentially... The Lions' offense is, like last year, going to have to try and outscore teams. But even the Lions' offense isn't as good as it was last year because of changes in the offensive line. So, can I see the Lions going 0-3-0? Yeah. Will they? I don't know if I'd bet on it right now the way they're playing.
Well, like I said before, the NFL is not, year to year. There's so many variables. And maybe more than any other sport. You looked at the schedule at the top of the year. I think we could all agree that it was going to be a rough go. It was a tough schedule. We didn't maybe necessarily see the Vikings drop off this much necessarily. But still, it's a tough schedule. Some tough road games at KC, at Philly, at LA. The Packers are, handled them twice this year. You figure you get a split with those guys. They beat you twice. Even the wins have been not, the so-called bottom feeder teams. They struggled to beat the Giants. They haven't won 2 games in a row in a couple of months now. They've been kind of on this win one, lose one thing for a while. Very mediocre the last 7-8 weeks now. You're absolutely right about stopping the run. That's been a big disappointment. And quite frankly, I wonder, we were talking a couple of minutes ago about coaches on the hot seat. I quite frankly wonder if Dan might make a move with defensive coordinator as well after this season. You wonder. I know they've been beset by injuries, but what you're talking about, Al, with the ones now, has not necessarily been that hard by injury.
No, they've gotten bodies back.
That was kind of what, like you said, what they've hung their hat on defensively, is being able to stop the run. And when you get a guy like Stafford, for example, Sunday was a prime example. You give him a running game like you gave him on Sunday. They averaged like 5.5 yards a carry. That's just begging for trouble. And it did not. The Rams were getting way too many yards on first down. They were constantly 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4. And when you get like that, the playbook for the other team opens way up. And especially in this day and age of teams going for it on fourth down a lot, you give a team a 2nd and 4. I mean, they could call just about anything. They could hit some deep shots, and which they did to Puka, of course. Stafford's too good to give him 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5, and they gave him 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5 all day long because they could not stop the run, particularly on first down.
Yeah, and doesn't that sound familiar, like the Lions' offense of the last couple of years?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it really does. But it's and even though it ended up being a one-score game, Nick, it really didn't feel, it wasn't as close as they say. It wasn't as close as the score indicated. Because it was actually the third quarter, or as they joked, the third quarter returned.
Yeah.
And they went 3 and out, 3 consecutive possessions, and that was the ball game.
Right.
I gave up on the game in the third
right about
quarter.
that time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was just a complete, what is it, like a 21-point swing at some point?
Yeah.
Or 21-0 run. Or, I don't know how long before the Lions finally scored again, but it's just like they couldn't stop anything. And then they couldn't score at all. I mean, they're the change of coordinators, I'm guessing, made some difference this year. I'm not surprised so they're kind of floundering. But the reason they were able to survive last year is because their offense was so good, even though the defense was decimated. But they can't match that this year. Plus, it's another year, and they've got the same players. They probably have the same playbook, and I think opponents are ready for them. So,
yeah, and one thing that was noticeable was the actually lack of offensive contribution coming from anybody other than wide receivers yesterday.
Right.
It was Amon-Ra and J-Mo, and that was it.
Right.
I mean, they both had well over 100 yards receiving, and no one else did nothing. And the tight ends, ever since they lost both their first and second string tight ends, that part of the game has completely disappeared for the Lions.
Well, their run game hasn't been that.
It hasn't been. Yeah, it's been really hit or miss. Yeah.
So, I mean, the Giants game was the only real kind of spectacular running game recently, but the Giants are a mess.
Yeah.
So, but they're not the Rams. Rams are serious contenders. So.
Yeah, but also factor into the running game could be the loss of Laporta and Wright, because the Lions run a lot of 2 and 3 tight end sets.
Yep.
And now they're running guys out there who essentially they picked up off the street.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and throw in all the whatever the changes on the offensive line, which must be a mess too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Cologne, the guard, who got beat badly a couple times, and even he admitted in the post game that that one drive blew up just because I couldn't make blocks. He took it. He took responsibility for it, but that also, he's a guy who would not normally be playing. It would have been Mahogany who's hurt, but. But one thing we do got to talk about, guys, is what the hell was up with that touchdown call that on the Rams, where one, it either wasn't a catch, or it was a catch and he was down at the 1. That for some reason it was both a catch and a touchdown, even though it's pretty obvious. And the reasoning they used, guys, was weird. That he was bobbling the ball. And he got control when he was in the end zone. But the reason he was bobbling the ball is because the ball looked like the ball hit the ground. It was absolutely one of the weirdest calls I've ever seen in an NFL game. And watching the Lions, I've seen a lot of weird NFL calls. But that one was just blatantly strange. It made no sense at all. When Dean Blandino of Fox is like, I don't know what they saw.
Right.
Yeah, but that says volumes, because usually those guys do carry water for the league, and he's like, and the guys on the call, the same way, like, I don't know what they're looking at, but it's a touchdown.
These things happen, it seems like, every game in the NFL. It seems like there's something, maybe not as high profile as that, maybe not as widely seen, because that was the America's game of the week, so it was like the national game.
Yeah, that's right, because they had the number 1 team on that one.
Yeah,
Tom Brady was there.
It seems like whenever the Lions are broadcast by that crew, they lose, it seems like. But anyway, I'd much rather have Jonathan Vilma and Kenny Albert to win those games.
I don't know what you're saying.
He's the lucky rabbit's foot for the Lions.
But, I mean, these calls happen so often anymore. I don't like. I hate to be one of those guys that's always bitching about the officials and blame the game on the refs. But it seems like it happens so often. And I think what's even more maddening, I can accept these kind of calls if they happen live in real time without the benefit of replay, like back in the 80s.
Yeah.
But now with all this technology and all of these camera angles and all of this interpretation and the length of time they take to make these decisions, I expect a better, more accurate result. And it's not just the Lions; it's any game I'm watching. I expect them to get it right. There's video evidence that, and the other thing too. Remember back in the old, they used to say that, well, the call on the field is such and such, so now there has to be irrefutable evidence to overturn it. Calls get overturned all the time with less than irrefutable evidence, or the evidence that looks like would confirm the call. For some reason, they still overturn. It's just that's what gets me, is we've got all this technology, and it's just like in baseball next year where they start to roll in the computer umpires for home plate for balls and strikes. You know darn well that as many people who want that now, because the balls and strikes calling has been atrocious lately, they're going to bitch about that too. They're going to bitch about that. But this thing though about the NFL with like this call yesterday, it's just the maddening thing is, why can't they get it right despite all the video evidence, all the camera angles? That's what I mean. The guys on the field are human. I can accept them getting it wrong. Yeah, even if you look at it and say, what were they looking at? And if the video evidence overturns their call, so be it. That's okay. But when the video evidence seems that it should overturn it and you don't, that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, I don't know. Like at some point, I think I saw a lot of posts about this last night, about the calls. People still complaining about it well after it was over. The refs cost us the game kind of attitude. I'm like, the refs probably make more than just those high profile mistakes within the game. They'll miss a holding call, or they'll miss this or that, and it goes both ways for the teams. So, if your whole game hinges on that one play, maybe you should have done something better in other parts of the game earlier on.
Yeah.
So
no, it's true.
Yeah, and I would also say anybody who thinks that cost them the game wasn't watching the game that closely.
No, it did.
No, because the Lions weren't stopping the Rams anyway. No, even if he had been called down correctly, I guess at the one, they weren't going to stop the touchdown. So and if it wasn't a catch, I really don't. Well, I don't think it makes that much difference in the big scheme of things because the Rams pretty much did whatever the hell they had. Over 500 yards of offense. They were going to do whatever they wanted on offense, which as we see, ultimately affects how the Lions have to call their game on offense. Which is another reason why maybe we're not seeing the running game is that we're seeing the Lions typically lately in desperation mode where they're falling behind like they did last night,
right?
And they're going to throw more. And like I said, and I have no issues with Jared Goff. He had a damn good game, and he was under pressure a lot. And 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, like a 110 QB rating. He made all this for the most part. I think he made all the smart plays. That game is not on him, and honestly, it's not on the offense. When you score 34 points, it's on the defense. And for the second year in a row, it's coming down to either ineffectiveness or injuries on the defense, and that kind of leads to what Greg wrote about today about Brad Holmes and about how he's built this team and decisions he's made are kind of coming back to bite him, specifically like Marcus Davenport, for example.
The piece that I wrote was that first of all, I started out by giving Brad full props for his drafting. There's no question.
Which he deserves.
I'm not going to sit here.
Totally.
And he should not be on the hot seat or anything like that.
No,
exactly.
But that's not the only way to build a team, of course. Now, I hearken back to the older days before Holmes when the Lions would do the opposite. They didn't draft well. They tried to patch their holes almost exclusively with free agency and made some really silly signings. I mentioned Trey Flowers as being one of them, Scott Mitchell being another. There's been a ton of them throughout the years where it didn't make any sense. The Lions were oftentimes bidding against themselves so that you could tell as soon as the players got here why the other teams let them go. And they just weren't very impactful players. They did not, give the Lions the money's worth that they were signed for. Now, though, the script is flipped. They're drafting well, but they're having trouble augmenting the roster with players from outside the organization. Brad has signed a number of DBs, but they've always been pretty much because he's lost DBs. It's been kind of a tit for tat thing. He hasn't really done anything, and I said in the piece, he hasn't really done anything shrewd yet. To me, he hasn't really made any sort of shrewd moves. Drafting is not shrewd necessarily, it can be. But to me, when I think of shrewd, I'm thinking about acquisitions, transactions, and he falls in love with projects. He falls in love with cheaper, under the radar guys that he thinks they can develop. And sometimes you get kind of full of yourself and you get a lot of hubris going on there. You feel like you can fix everybody. It's kind of like what Nick mentions whenever they talk about Chris Fedor with the Tigers pitching coach, and how Nick always says, Fedor can't fix everybody. You can't. Not all these guys all these dudes that they draft and are put on the practice squad are gonna amount to anything. You mentioned a little while ago, Al, about the guys off the street playing tight end and so forth. Injuries happen. I get it.
Right.
I just don't think my unscientific view is that I don't think Brad has been very aggressive. Not as aggressive as some of the other teams in the NFC in terms of trying to make his team better. Now, Micah Parsons got hurt yesterday. That's true. But the Micah Parsons signing, up until he got hurt, was a very good one for the Packers. The Eagles don't sit on their hands. They don't. And I'm not saying make a trade or make a signing just for the sake of doing it. But I don't know that we've really seen that side of Brad Holmes yet. We've seen it a little bit, but he tends to do it low key. Nothing dramatic. He's almost kind of gone out of his way to say he won't do anything dramatic. I wonder if they'll change course a little bit, because whether they make the playoffs or not, this was not a good year. I shouldn't say not a good. It was a difficult year, and some of the cracks in the lines have been exposed. Yeah. And if they want to continue to stay on top in the NFC or be one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the conference, they're going to have to augment the roster. You can't roll everything back and just hope guys get healthy. Draft again in April and call it a day. You're going to have to bring people in from outside the organization to help out a little bit. And we'll see what they do. But I just feel like we're at an inflection point. Holmes is, because this is the first time that the fans have really been kind of irritated with him. He's kind of gotten free pass for the first 4 years because they've had such success. But after that Washington game, the fans, attitude has changed a little bit. And this season has been a rocky one. And a lot of that rockiness they blame on him, whether that's fair or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's and that's and he may have his hand forced anyway to being a little more aggressive in how he goes into it, because he's got two safeties that have career-threatening injuries, for example. Brian Branch has torn his Achilles, so they'll be lucky if he comes back halfway through next year. And Kirby Joseph, from everything they're saying, has a chronic knee issue that may never go away. No, it sounds much like what Frank Ragnow was having to deal with. It ultimately ended his career early. And what we're hearing from Taylor Decker as well, that he is essentially struggling to get through seasons because he has a chronic shoulder injury that probably will never get better. So yeah, there's a lot of things that the Lions that you're right, Greg, and that Brad Holmes may have to shift his philosophy if he actually wants to become more than maybe just right now. I hate to say it, as much as we thought this was a Super Bowl contender, this team, as things stand, this team likely tops out at best as a first-round team. They might win a wild card game, they might get knocked out, but I think that's as far as they would get anyway. But obviously, you never know till you get there. Teams that weren't considered elite have won Super Bowls. I mean, look at the Eli Manning Giants; they got hot and rode it all the way.
Right.
But the odds are that's not going to happen. So this offseason, it's going to be very interesting to see, guys, just what Brad Holmes decides to do, because a lot of stuff the Lions have planned, like we don't want to touch money on our cap because we want it to roll over to next year, because then we need to pay Sam Laporta, we need to pay Jahmyr Gibbs, and so on and so forth. Well, maybe you aren't paying Brian Branch now because of I hate to say it, because of that injury. Maybe you don't pay Sam Laporta because tight ends, as good as he is, tight end is much easier to replace than a left tackle, for example.
Right.
And plus now he's got a back injury to end this year, so now you got to wonder, how's his future going to look? I mean, I hate to see, that I hate to write some of these guys off, but maybe this is the Lions are going to have to make some tougher decisions rather than we're going to keep our guys and then we'll just fill in the gaps with so on and so forth, and then we'll let it roll. When I think you're right, Greg, I think the time has come that they may need to get more aggressive on how they handle off seasons. And and you're right, the projects. Tesla. I mean, guy shows flashes, but was he worth giving up all that draft capital to get him? The worst one though is Giovanni Manu, the tackle, was in his third year at this point, and it really looks like his ceiling is a backup swing tackle. I mean, when he played earlier, when he got forced into playing this year, he looked like a guy. He definitely wasn't a starter. We'll put it that way. So yeah, there's a. I don't want to see the Lions move on from Brad Holmes or anything like that, but I think he needs to look deep into how he's built this team and how he can improve it, and it just can't be through the draft.
Right, and I detect a little bit of stubbornness and a little bit of hubris from this guy, just a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not overt. It's not Bob Quinn type stuff or anything like that, or Scott Harris type stuff. But there does seem to be kind of a stubbornness, an unwillingness to deviate. And it's tough. And we're at a point now where I'm not going to jump on the guy. I'm not trying to jump on him. Hey. They might still win 11 games, go to the playoffs this year. Who knows? But I'm just saying that there's been concerns that he's not doing enough to address the pass rush, for example.
Yeah.
Aiden Hutchinson is not the same player as he was before the leg injury. Now, maybe that he's just having that transition year, and he'll be better at 26 than he was in 25. He's not as good in 25 as he was in 24 for the injury. I'm sorry, he's not. The interception notwithstanding yesterday. But he's still young and he still can be very good, but he needs some help. And they just haven't been able to find that consistent performer to be like his Robin to his Batman in terms of pass rush. Anzalone's 1 year older. Jack Campbell's been a great find. There's no question about it. Derek Barnes is struggled with injury. Aleem McNeil has been a disappointment. You mentioned Davenport. But there's been some pleasant surprises, like the other guy who makes the sacks all the time. What's his name?
Muhammad.
Yes, he's been a pleasant surprise. So this is not a disaster. I'm not trying to say this guy's. Yeah,
this is still a good team, and it has a good front office. Yeah,
I'm not saying that he's got to go either. I'm just saying that this is maybe arguably the most important offseason since that crew has gotten here. Because of the expectations being raised, because of where everybody is in their careers, because of this window that we don't like to talk about that exists, that he doesn't like to say exists. I think that this is an important one. It's a big one because there's a lot of things that can ride on, and now they should have an easier schedule. Easier, I use that in quotation marks. Easier schedule next year, especially if they end up finishing third in the division, which they probably will. They should have an easier schedule, especially if they miss the playoffs. Yeah. So their schedule may not be as daunting, but again, who knows? Because just the teams that are bad this year doesn't mean they're going to be bad next year. The teams that are good this year doesn't mean they're going to be good next year. That's the way the NFL rolls.
Yeah, so you're talking about the Wayne Fontes strategy, essentially. Make the playoffs, miss the playoffs, make the playoffs because of the schedule, essentially.
Yeah, right. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah.
Although they had a tough schedule last year too.
Yeah.
Because they had a good season before that. So.
Yeah.
But I think, Greg, you're right that this year will be important because I think he's going to have to do more adjustments to this roster than he's been doing in the last couple of years. He had a bunch of young guys. They were doing well. They were kind of in going uphill in terms of their success. But, this year they hit a plateau. Or even dipped, if you want to look at it that way. And I think they did dip a little bit. So I think you'll have to have more than just like little tweaks. It's like, what are we going to do long term for the offensive line? What are we going to do long term for defensive line?
Yeah.
Can we, bite the bullet without Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph if they really have the injuries that serious? There are too many places where they have to really think about what they're going to do going forward, not just patch it up for a year. You don't want to do the Scott Harris thing and it's like just sign some old fart for 1 year just to mark time. You want to build a Super Bowl contender.
Oh, we just got Nick's thoughts on the Kenley Jansen signing, essentially.
God.
We'll get
old fart.
Yeah. Well, Finnegan's not that much younger, to be honest, but yeah, it's to get back to the Lions. Yeah, this kind of reminds me, guys, of the Eagles of a couple years ago when they lost both their. They had a season where they won the Super Bowl. And then the next season, they had lost both their coordinators, they had a lot of brain drain, in other words, not just with coordinators and coaching staff. And they barely made the playoffs the next year, and I think they got knocked out right away. But they were able to bounce back, and become a Super Bowl winning team. So, best case scenario, maybe that's the Lions, that this is just a kind of a transition year because of all the internal changes they had on the coaching staff that, hopefully with another offseason to get things situated. And thing is, we don't know for sure what exactly is going to happen with offensive coordinator. Do you still want Dan Campbell calling plays next year? Is John Morton still going to be here? And then for all the talk early in the year about the Lions defense, well, that's kind of fallen off a cliff. Even you factor in injuries, they shouldn't be this bad. So yeah, it's with Shepard. So, yeah, it's I can understand the fans' frustration, but they should also temper that with this is still a good team. That's the thing, It's just, they're just not meeting expectations. But then again, that's life of being a fan of a team that has expectations. That as Lions fans, we rarely have the expectations ever. So so there's a reason we're disappointed because we're expecting good things from this team, and that's something we couldn't say for the majority of our lifetime.
Actually, my expectations were that they would be a bad team, they would suck, and they met my expectations like every single year for decades. So
he is such a young guy. Everything sucks.
We're talking about SOL here.
Yeah. But yeah, it's again, the season's not over. The playoff door is not shut yet. There's still a lot of talent with this Lions team. It's just a matter, they need help. Who knows if they'll get it or not? And hell, and injuries still. Or no, now there's the other cornerback, Robertson. He has a hurt hand now. No, he may have to play off a club if he can even play next week. So it's been one thing after another. But I think that's one thing, guys, that fans tend to forget. All teams have injuries. And people looking for someone to blame, that's the end. I think that's the thing that really bothers me when I see fans online. Oh, it must be the strength and conditioning, or maybe they're practicing too hard, or the doctors suck. And it's like, did you see how Brian Branch tore his Achilles? He got caught in a pile, broken legs and torn ACLs and high ankle sprains aren't because of your coaching and your doctor and training staff. It's just the NFL. That's just how it is. Injuries are it's a fact of life, especially now that they've extended the season. It's absolutely ridiculous that I know it's frustration. People are looking for something to blame. They always do. They're looking for scapegoats. Right. But when it comes to injuries, it's just the luck of the draw, and the Lions have had some god-awful luck. Because honestly, the teams that have the longest runs in pretty much any sport are the ones that get lucky when it comes to health. See what the Pistons did earlier this year when they were running out essentially their second stringers and third stringers and actually managed to keep that winning streak alive is the exception to the rule. No, that never happens in the NFL.
I mean, the Pistons should have been killed I don't know how many times.
Yeah.
And but they got it. They got through it. I will say this front office that they have is probably the best one I've ever seen that the Lions have had. I find them to be capable. Are they going to make all the right moves next year to kind of take it all the way? I don't know. There's another 31 teams doing the same thing. So, I mean, who the hell knows who's going to make the better moves next year?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I think they have a capable team to say, okay, what did we do well? What did we, where do we need help here? And to we talk about it all the time. Build a roster. And if you have to adjust the roster, like all Detroit championship teams have adjusted their roster to get to a championship.
Yep.
Multiple times. And hopefully they do the same here. They're not too stubborn in the offseason to say, maybe we should sign a guy, a good player. Maybe we should trade for a good player and give up some picks because we're not going to find this guy in a draft. So
I think that culture goes only so far. I think you can milk that culture cow for a little while. Then sooner or later, talent has to take over. I know that Lions like to talk about grit, and we are the Lions, and this is who we are. And we're tough, and we're this, and we're that, and boy, we have a changed culture now, and it's not like it used to be in the old days, and that's great. It really is, because that does help. But sooner or later, that has an expiration date. Eventually, you have to win on talent and merit, and not just say we're a bunch of dudes, a bunch of dogs, as they like to call themselves. That are like they are the one game, for example, that one game against Tampa, that Monday night game with the Legion of Whom they called it, because they limited Baker Mayfield with all these no-name guys in the secondary. Okay, but that's not sustainable.
Right?
Have they really repeated that? No, it's not a sustainable. Baker was a little bit off that night. I mean, nobody wants to talk about that. But they did a good job, sure. But Baker was off a little bit. It happened. It was 1 week in the NFL. Play that game 5 times. I bet Baker has much better nights against those guys than he did that particular night. So sooner or later, you have to have talent. Al again mentioned a little while ago about the tight ends, and they're playing guys off the street, and they're playing guys off the street in the back end and the secondary. And so it's great to say that you've got depth, and this is a culture thing, and we're all about winning and next man up. But sooner or later, talent is going to will out, and if you don't have enough of it. And these receivers, by the way, guys, in the NFL, these receivers in the NFL are so good. They are amazing to me, the catches they make, and not just all pro guys, just guys you even heard of. Some of these catches, I saw a couple of catches yesterday in the Lions game the Rams made. There were just one of them was like guy was running out of bounds and somehow caught it and got his feet in, and the strength they've got in their hands to wrestle these balls away from the DBs. The receivers in the NFL are incredibly talented and gifted, and there's so many good players in the NFL. No matter, I don't care what team you're playing, every team's got a great player, and the difference is the better teams have more of them, obviously. But when the Lions were really bad, Calvin Johnson was still unstoppable. Other teams couldn't stop him. He was catching 9-10 balls a night, even if the Lions were winning 5 or 6 games a year, because he was that good. It amazes me how the plays these guys make. They keep their feet in bounds. You swear to God when you watch these catches live that there was no way they were in bounds. You watch the replay and they got there. They dragged a toe. These guys are amazing, absolutely unbelievable. And they're the top. That's why NFL football is the best football in the world. There's no better football than the NFL.
Yeah.
So you're right about. I think the culture thing is the foundation. I think grit is more of an identity,
right?
Kind of like a brand more than anything else. Because when it ends up on a T-shirt, it's nothing but a brand,
right?
So, and I think that stuff should stay there. That's foundational.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I think you're right. And the next man up thing. Yeah, I get it. In the heat of a game, your starter gets knocked out, the next guy's up. Finish the job. But that guy's not a starter for a reason.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The third string guy is definitely not a starter for a reason.
Right.
And you can't go long term with those guys. Maybe by some guy who comes in as a fluke, but most of the reason there's a reason. Most of the time, there's a reason that guy's third string.
Yeah,
bingo.
That's a great point.
So it's not a long-term solution. Your backup quarterback is your emergency starter. Is your
right.
He's not your high-priced NFL star. So heck, I don't even know the name of Goff's backup.
Right.
So
but Kyle Allen, isn't it? I believe.
So,
something like that. Yeah. It's like I'm struggling to think what the hell is.
But the only reason I know it is I just happened to see it online the other day. That's why it's stuck in my brain.
Right. But it's not something like whatever names, whatever star quarterback you can think of. Yeah. So, they need to have some level of depth, but their starters need to be healthy.
Yeah.
And the talent does need to be there. So. But if you're filling up so many different holes with your third string guys, that shit's going to catch up with you.
Right.
Yeah. And we're seeing it right now, which at least explains the backfield. But what we're seeing on the defensive line is another thing altogether, because they seem to be fairly healthy right now. But like I said, it is what it is. The Lions are what they are, and and as was it Bill Parcells who said you are what your record says you are. So to speak, yeah. Essentially, their record says they're a bubble playoff team. So we'll see if they can actually get through over that bubble. All right, Pistons are playing right now. To look on the brighter side, they're playing some damn good basketball. They're in Boston tonight. They lead the East with a 20-5 record. The Knicks are in second, 2.5 games behind them. The only other team in the NBA with 20 wins right now, guys, is the Thunder. And OKC, they're on another planet. They're, 24-1?
They lost the second game.
Yeah.
Oh, they have lost the second game. So, Well, that changes things.
A second game.
But even still, they could be a threat to win 70 games easily, I think, this year.
Sure.
But Pistons, on the other hand, their most recent game was probably their best overall game of the season. The curb stopped the Atlanta Hawks 142-115. And what's interesting was just we've been talking about depth or the lack of it. This is a team that has it. In that game against the Hawks, no player played more than 25 minutes. No player took more than 10 shots. And all 13 players who saw the floor scored for the Pistons. And I believe 8 scored in double digits. And, I thought the Pistons would be improved this year. I thought, they'll probably I would hope a top 4 seed in the East, maybe win 50 games. But right now, this is looking like a top 1 or 2 team in the East that could win 60 the way they're playing right now.
They're playing surprisingly well, especially with having made changes, having to replace Beasley and having
and they did that they had to pivot quickly with that stuff.
Yeah, that weird ass thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And, then picked up LeVert, which is kind of a meh, but kind of Hardaway was. It's like they replaced LeVert with Hardaway, but or the other way around. But it's kind of like, did you gain much or lose much? Not really, either way. But their other guys are coming in strong. Jalen Durant.
And I would also think, just to step in real quick, I think Duncan Robinson is a better all-around player than Malik Beasley. He does more. Yeah, he may not be quite as good of a shooter, but he is more. Yeah, he can do the other things that Beasley couldn't, especially when it comes to trying on defense and being able to pass and things like that. He's been a really good signing. I knew he was pretty good with the Heat, but he's really watched him this year. I can see why teams want him in the lineup.
Right. And then the other part is how deep into the bench to go to play a game.
Yes.
It's kind of nuts.
No kidding. Yeah.
It's just absolutely nuts. They could go for any guy on that bench and put him in there.
Yeah.
And that guy's going to fight and scratch and play and Paul Reed looks like he's playing for dear life every time.
Yeah, he would be in a rotation of a lot of teams, and here he seems to only play when one of the big guys is hurt, which says volumes about their depth.
Or serious foul trouble.
Or lots of foul trouble. Yeah,
which is
but that's a great point. That there's a reason why B-Ball Paul is a fan favorite, because he plays just how you said. It's like he plays like every play is life or death. So, which means he can play out of control sometimes, but that also kind of shows the Pistons with the. I put it this way: one thing I've read about the NBA is if you outwork the other team in a long season, you're going to win a lot of those games, because a lot of teams just don't always show up for games mentally, and if you can show up for every game ready to play, you're going to win far more games than you lose in the NBA just because of how the schedule is set up. And I think we're kind of seeing that with the Pistons, that they almost always seem ready to play. And that makes a big difference, because I think that really shows where they actually have a good record in back-to-backs.
Yeah, and I think also these guys reacted a certain way to that lousy 14-win season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're pissed. They're pissed that they had to go through that.
Right.
And I don't think they ever want to do that ever again. And, so, I think they responded as positively to that as possible.
Yeah.
They want to win. I mean, I can't imagine poor Isaiah Stewart and all the shitty seasons he's endured before last year. So,
those guys play like they have a chip on their shoulder.
Good.
Yeah. We had a 14-win season and played for Monty Williams. We never want to live through that again. Exactly.
Absolutely. Who would?
Yeah.
And, which makes it ridiculous when I hear some of the guys that they want to trade to the Pistons. Anthony Davis, does he play for? He doesn't play for dear life. Zion Williamson, oh my God!
Mm-hmm.
please, that guy can't stay healthy more than like 20 games a year.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, we talk about culture, but those guys, if you want your stars specifically to make and set the culture, and guys like that who are considered stars, especially Anthony Davis, who's I guess a superstar, at least at one point of his career, I don't see him fitting in here at all.
No.
A guy who can play maybe 45 games a year, and always seems to be injured or dinged up or not playing the second game of a back-to-back. Then you got a guy like Cade Cunningham, who you pretty much have to drag out of a game. I don't see the fit.
I don't remember the full story, but I think it was when the Bad Boys acquired Mark Aguirre, and there was a story of Isaiah Thomas and Bill Laimbeer setting him down.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're going to fucking play our way or you're out of
Yep.
here.
That's
So,
that's exactly what happened.
championship.
Yeah.
So there was no fucking around with that team. They were all singularly focused on winning a championship. That's all they wanted to do. And
Yeah, I could see these. I could see Cade Cunningham doing that. And then you got beef stew just like this.
yeah, basically, yeah.
Or you have to answer to him. And I don't. And beef stew, I think, is really he has been around. He's seen it all with this franchise.
Right.
So a guy like him's got to be absolutely living the life, and it's like,
Right.
I don't ever want to go back to what it used to be around here.
Right.
Don't blame him. I mean, he went through lousy Dwayne Casey years, lousy Monty Williams.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's like 4 seasons. This is his 6th season. So 4 out of his 6 years in his career was pretty shitty years.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Right.
But that does leave the question. This team really does feel like, it's culture first. Are you willing to maybe dump some of that culture if a guy because any trade they make would include Tobias Harris, and the guy they call Unk, who's been in the NBA forever, but he's a glue guy, and he is their 3rd leading scorer still. Is this a team you want to break up to get that guy? I don't know if the Pistons have reached the point where they're even sure what the finished product is going to be,
Right.
because of Jaden Ivey for the most part.
Yeah. That's a good observation, Al.
Yeah.
You don't know if you need a missing piece. You don't know if you need a missing piece of the puzzle if you don't know what the whole puzzle is going to be. I guess I'm trying to spit out.
That's a great, exactly. That's a good way to put it.
The Adrian Danley thing with Aguirre, that was a missing piece kind of a thing, in a way. You knew what you had. Obviously, that crew had been together for 4 or 5 years. You knew what what the ramifications would be of getting rid of AD and so forth. They knew who they were at that point. The Pistons did. They had made multiple trips to the playoffs. They were getting closer every time. They were knocking on the door. They went to the finals the year before and lost. So that was different. But that's a good observation. Right now, they're at that stage where I don't know if you can identify a missing piece to the puzzle, because I don't know what the puzzle's the ending puzzle is going to be. Now, having said that, I can tell you what they don't need, and that's Anthony Davis. I can tell you that.
Right. Yeah.
Especially for the return that they would have to give up to get him. I don't think they're at the point, guys, to me, where they have to make a move like that. I don't look at that as, I think that's a short-term vision for what seems to be a long-term roster. And for you to then take a roster that's built for the long term here, and when I say that, I mean, look at all the young guys they still have. I mean, they've got some veterans, true. But my gosh, Duran and Cunningham, and even though they've got 3-4 years on them, still they're young. And you throw in Ivy, and you throw in Holland and Oscar Thompson. And why would you, at this juncture, want to do a short-sighted move as if you're like this is the last thing we need to do to win a championship when you're coming off a first-round exit, in which you lost all 3 games at home? I don't think they're ready for that. First of all, I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're all talking about something that's not going to happen anyway. But I think just for the sake of playing devil's advocate, I don't think that this is something they need to do.
Yeah,
I think you're right. I don't see why they're not like one player away kind of thing. And you know what? I don't think they're going to make it to the finals this year. I see them, I hope they win a couple of series this year. That would be progress with those guys.
Yeah.
And then, if they have the mentality I think they do, they're going to say, okay, we want more. We want to get farther next year. Mm-hmm. And at some point they will see what they have in Ivy. Let the guy be out. He was out with a long injury.
And he looks like a guy who hasn't played in the year right now.
And that's very true. Like, give him time, especially with this team here. This team is different than the ones he did play on, like with Killian Hayes and all that juggernaut. And,
yes, the Killian Hayes era, yes.
And but, I mean, the other one the going to work Pistons, they were one player away and they traded for Rasheed Wallace. That was kind of their difference maker.
Yeah,
but they were farther along. They had four other starters. You knew who they were.
Yeah,
that's
true. They had a bench. You knew who the bench was.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
So this team, whatever this roster is, it's going to change next year and in the next couple of years.
Yeah,
and that's kind of just a natural progression of things. And then you're going to find out who the core of that team is. So.
Yeah, I don't have any issues with just riding it out this year, or maybe making a smaller move like they did last year of Dennis Schroeder. A nice complimentary piece, and then see how far you go, because this team is way ahead of schedule right now. So, yeah, I could understand not making it's too early to sell the farm. I guess that's the best way to put it yet.
Remember, it wasn't that long ago when Pistons fans were bemoaning the fact that they thought that the Orlando Magic had surpassed them in terms of the rebuild. And once they got a couple of young stars and looked like they were going to lap the Pistons. And now, I mean, just 2 years ago, it looked like, the Pistons were going to lose that battle, but not now. It doesn't look like that.
When people were saying Paolo Banchero was going to be a better player than Cade Cunningham.
Right.
Yeah, that doesn't get said anymore, for example.
Right.
They have a decent team. They had an off year last year, but they're much stronger this year. They beat.
Yeah, they are a good team. There's no doubt about that.
But
and
I think they were saying that during Monty's year in the on the bench, but that was kind of.
It wasn't the Pistons rebuild also compared to Houston's for a while.
Yep, because
that sounds about right.
Yeah, definitely, because that so-called rivalry that was talked about for a while because of what's the kid? What's the kid who got drafted behind Cade Cunningham? Was it Green?
Was it Green?
Oh,
I think.
Yeah,
and he said he should have been drafted. No, he ended up getting traded away from Houston anyway. So I think that had a lot to do with it. But yeah, it's you're right. The Pistons have been compared to some of the other young teams in the league, and they have either surpassed or at least equaled a lot of what those other teams are doing at a very, very quick rate, to say the very least. All right. Speaking of teams that had a chance to make a move and didn't, the Red Wings. The Red Wings actually are coming off a pretty darn good West Coast trip, 4-2 swing on where they often have issues. They're 18-12-2 right now. 39 points leave them tied with the Tampa Bay Lightning for first place in the Atlantic. But they're also not that far out of being out of a wild card spot. The East is wide open right now. As there's a couple red flags that they're a very top-heavy lineup. They have like 4 guys who are doing all the heavy lifting.
Right.
And a -5 goal differential.
Right.
But it was reported that the Wings did make an offer for the current Norris Trophy holder, the defenseman who played locally for the U.S. National Development Program and also at the University of Michigan, and also a pending free agent in Quinn Hughes, but reportedly they were outbid, or the Wings did not feel like going all in on that, and they are outbid by the Minnesota Wild. And now Quinn is saying one of the reasons he likes being in Minnesota is that he's close to home in Detroit. And he might be willing to sign an extension. Oh, really? So I don't know about right now, the Wings still, to me, guys, just feel like, I don't know if I want to call them fraudulent, but they feel like because after that, before that West Coast swing, they had like a 1-5 stretch. They are so up and down; it's a literal roller coaster. They're not. They don't have enough depth for the most part. Like I said, most of their scoring is coming from 2 or 3 guys. And a guy like Quinn Hughes is the sort of guy we've always talked about, the difference maker, the impact player, the guy who literally makes everybody around him better. And for whatever reason, the Wings did not. I think a lot of it had to do with, if he's going to sign, if you're guaranteed he's going to sign that 7 or 8 year deal, yeah, I'm sure the Wings would have made that trade in a heartbeat. But I'm sure Hughes wants to go to free agency, like every athlete does. Yeah. And that probably played a big reasoning into what the Wings were willing to give up, because it would still be, even though they would have the in with him being a local kid, it's still a risk that he becomes a rental rather than a long-term piece. And I can see why. I mean, as much as I would have loved to see him here, I can see why Yzerman didn't go all in if you don't have a guarantee he's going to sign.
Yeah, I mean, that one I can kind of give him a pass at, but I want to get back to what you said about being fraudulent. And I do not trust that team as far as I can call. You mentioned the negative goal differential. That's the first red flag. But the second one is, you kind of answered your own question when you said, boy, they're so up and down when they only got 3 or 4 guys that score. That's why they're up and down. They don't have any depth. Of course you're going to go on hot streaks. If those guys get hot and start potting some goals, you're going to win some games. Then they go cold and they don't get any scoring after the first, like you mentioned, first 4 or 5 guys. They get nothing from anyone. And then they go on one of those 1-5 streaks you're talking about. Then the goaltending shits the bed. Everything goes sideways. They can't kill penalties. They can't score on the power play. And then they regroup, come back and go 5-1. They're one of the most maddening teams I've ever followed in Detroit in 55 years because of that exact same thing. I don't know who they are. I don't know what their identity is. They don't have any. They don't do anything particularly well. I was talking to somebody at work the other day. I said, I can't believe the Wings are in first place. They were at that time. They were in first place.
Right.
I can't believe they're in first place because they're not very good. And I can guarantee you they won't be in first place at the end of the year. But I don't know how they're doing this. I really don't. I mean, I know Gibson's played well. I think he's had 2 shutouts the last 3 games or something. But he's up and down. The whole team is up and down. There's no except for Larkin and DeBrincat and maybe one other guy. There's no one else that just gives you the same thing from night to night. And as a team collectively, they don't give you the same thing night to night. They might give you a good, like you said, Al, they might go on a 5-1 streak or something. And they had a good road trip. Yes, they did. That's true. Yeah. They had a good road trip. That's for sure. But do you really think this team is capable of getting 100 points and finishing, up in the one or 2 in the division and continuing to be on a 100-point pace when they're at a -5 goal differential at this point? I don't trust them. I don't, and that's why I don't. It doesn't bother me as much anymore when they go on those losing streaks. Yeah, it used to really get me irritated, but now I just kind of expect it. I expect they'll be sitting here next to knee jerks, talking about the Red Wings going 2-4-1 or something. Oh, they can't score goals, guys, and Gibson's not playing well, and Talbot's not playing well, and they can't kill penalties, and McClellan doesn't know what to do anymore, and he's fed up, and then they'll go back and get hot again. It's very, very maddening.
I agree with you there. It's like, okay, this is a little bit of a hot streak now, and my guess is like if DeBrincat is scoring, they have a chance of winning. Right. If they don't, they're going to score like 1 or 2 goals, and no defense really. Right. The defense will be a joke. The goaltending will be a joke. And if it's anything like the patterns they've had the last few years, this is the good part of the season.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because February, March, it's going to really get ugly because they can't even sustain this shit for an entire year.
Yeah.
And let alone have a solid season. So Kane will go back on the injury list. He's up and down on that thing like a yo-yo, and I don't know. I can't watch them. It's like I have a hard time watching those guys.
Yeah, it's hard to get excited about them. That's the thing.
Exactly.
I can't remember any like first place team or vying for first place team in Detroit that I just don't have any sort of interest in. I don't have any sort of excitement about them being in first place. I don't feel good about it. I don't feel good about where they are in the standings because I know that it can change just like that, and probably will. So
I don't know how many times I texted you guys like, how the hell are these guys in first place? Like,
right. Right. Yeah.
I think that speaks a lot to what Al was saying about how the East is wide open, which is kind of a nice way of saying nobody's really taking the bull by the horns.
Right.
Toronto's kind of scuffling a little bit. You look at the standings, there's only like 5 points that separate first from seventh in that division.
Right, exactly.
And then you go to the other division, and teams like Philadelphia have bounced back. They're having a pretty good year. But I think it speaks less about how good the Red Wings are and more about how the East as a whole has kind of come down a little bit, or not. If not come down a little bit, then nobody's really dominating in the East that much. Certainly not in the Red Wings division. Everybody in the Red Wings division is really packed, really tightly packed. And you go on and you lose a couple games in a row, you can fall 3 or 4 spots in the standings.
Yeah.
I mean, some teams in their division have like regressed. Like Boston's kind of like not at their peak like they were a couple years ago, and I think Tampa Bay may not be the Tampa Bay of the Cup years, but are still strong, but not quite as strong. So, and I think Toronto, when they lost Marner and they made more changes, but at the same time, I'm still like, how the hell the Red Wings get in there, because they don't really have any star of any real value, or they're still a boring team to me. But
that's I was going to say, taking the words out of my. I don't find them playing a very. Watching them play is not fun. The Red Wings. It's just not a very entertaining game to watch.
No,
I mean, just compared to like the Pistons, who play a very enjoyable style of basketball. They like the fast break. They play hard-nosed defense. They have an ethos. They have a personality to how they play. The Wings are just kind of there, and they have a few guys that actually show signs of life, but they have a lot of guys who are just guys, I guess is the best way to put it. And it just doesn't make for a fun watch. It's, given a choice, I'll watch the Pistons 100 times out of 100 over them.
Yeah, you feel like that when they win, they just kind of stumble into a victory. There's not really like. And I know, like there was a game. I think it was on this trip where they went up. I want to say they went up 4-1 or 4-0. I think it was 4-0. Ended up winning 4-3.
4-3.
Went on to win. They just feel like when they do win, it's like, boy, they're just not impressive to me. Hey, don't get me wrong. I hope a month or two from now we'll be, singing their praises. But I just feel like that it. And Nick's right. This is usually the time of the year where they do play well. Between now and the beginning of February is when they typically play well. Then they, nosedive after the All-Star break. We'll see what happens.
All right. Speaking of not sure in what kind of a team we're going to have for them next year, will be the Tigers. They just had the winter meetings, and apparently they are concentrated on the bullpen right now, as you heard Nick allude to earlier. The two biggest moves they had made so far is they re-signed Kyle Finnegan, who they picked up at the trade deadline last year, and it was actually a very good pickup. He agreed to a 2-year deal, but then they added a veteran closer, Kenley Jansen, that I think most of us remember from his days as the Dodgers closer, who inked a 1-year contract with a club option for 2027. So possibly 2-year deal if he pitches well. I mean, great. Yeah, they do need guys in the pen. I mean, we saw that at the end of last year that the pitching chaos doesn't work as well when your bullpen just isn't as good as it was the year before. But it still doesn't change the fact that, I have no problem with either of these guys being signed. You need bullpen depth. And Jansen, even though some of the peripherals are kind of concerning, his K rate has gone down while his home run rate has gone up some. Right. He still overall had a very good year last year. Yeah. So no issues with those. But the problem is they still haven't done anything to any kind of change with the everyday lineup or the offense. All they've done so far is Andy Ibanez has been released. So They don't have their left hand hit the guy who's supposed to kill left hand pitching.
Right.
So but other than that, there's been no real changes with the team, other than also with as of right now, it's a status quo with the offense. And the elephant in the room is, of course, Tariq Skubal. We don't know what's going to happen, other than it's looking more and more guys like the Tigers are just going to ride it out with him until he hits free agency. The issue being, though, if you're going to do that, don't you think you would want to add a few pieces to the team to make that run when you have the best pitcher in the goddamn world? And it looks like they're just... It's become very frustrating watching how they want to build this team. It's like Brad Holmes on steroids when it comes to building a team. It's young guys. We don't want to block young guys. Well, you're kind of blocking young guys right now, for example, at second base. You have a bunch of guys who can play second, short, and third, and you already got those positions for the most part filled. So, I don't know. It's become very frustrating because we know exactly what this team needs. They need a bat or two who doesn't strike out and can get on base, because we've always talked about controlling the strike zone, but most of the guys on this team strike out too much, and they have too low of an on-base percentage. Yet they've done nothing to improve. You can't build everything around, especially even more so in baseball than football. Yeah, you just can't completely build through your minor leagues. Right. Otherwise, you end up like the Tampa Bay Rays, and there's an absolute ceiling with a team like that.
Yep.
So it's become very frustrating, especially when you got this Skubal stuff hanging over your head like a damn guillotine.
Right. Here's we were all. Nick was sharing some screenshots of what
quotes of
Harris
his,
was saying at the winter meetings, and it was absolutely infuriating. The comment section was almost kind of cathartic because everybody was saying what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Which was, because Harris basically, to wind the clocks back, everybody remembers at the end of the season, Scott Harris bemoaned the offense. You finally thought he got it. He's finally opened his eyes. I really don't understand how this offense that was so good in the first half fell off a cliff in the second half. We have to take a look at that. Now, they did make some changes in the batting department, in the coaching department, the batting size. That's true.
Yeah.
But he publicly said, it was kind of shocking to me how our approach just changed and devolved as the season wore on. And I was like, oh, thank God he finally sees it. His eyes have been opened. Then he comes back at the winter meetings with these quotes. We're going to we think we're going to get all of our improvement from within the organization.
Yeah.
And we started listing up all these young guys and how they're just apparently he's got some sort of premonition that they're all going to hit. They're all going to be very good. I got this guy's going to do this, and this guy's going to do that. And we got this guy following that guy, and that guy following that guy. It's like he's describing a checkers on a checkerboard. We're going to move all these guys, and we're going to go from one end of the board to the other and not miss a beat. Like it's predestined. That's not the way it works. He mentioned nothing about spending any money on offense. In fact, he went out of his way to say if we spend any money, it'll be in pitching. And it's okay. That's fine. Yeah. But I don't know what happened to the Scott Harris back in October who said, "Gee whiz, guys," this was only a couple months ago. "Gee whiz, guys, I can't believe how this offense tanked. Essentially, our approach was awful in the second half." And so they got rid of one or two batting coaches, I think. And now it's back to, we're just going to let these. And he mentioned the blocking thing again. We don't want to block the young guys. We're going to roll with our young guys. We think we got these guys that are going to come in and light the world on fire. And then we got guys behind them and guys behind them. Like he's got this endless supply of Hall of Famers in the pipeline. It's weird. And it's not. And I said the same thing you did, Al, but the Tampa Bay thing. The Tampa Bay thing, where the ceiling is 88 wins in a first-round playoff exit. That's the ceiling. Tampa Bay baseball, people liked it for a while because it was all, look at these guys, they don't have any payroll, and they're swimming in the deep end of the pool with the Yankees and the Red Sox. But the bottom line is they'd win 88 games, maybe 90, in some cases mid-90s, okay, fine. Never do anything in the playoffs. Nothing. Never do anything in the playoffs. And that was their ceiling. And that was enough to kind of mollify the fan base, what little fan base they have, your dad and a few other people. Those are
Yeah.
the fan base.
Yeah.
And that was enough to mollify them. And I think the Tigers are going down that same path because Harris is the smartest guy in the room, don't you know?
Yeah, and then the next step will be when Riley Green is ready to be paid, they'll do what the Tampa Bay does. They'll either let him walk or trade him.
Well, I don't care.
And then move. That's exactly what Tampa does. They develop a star, a guy who gets to an all-star level, and then they trade him because they don't want to pay him $20 million or $30 million a year.
Yeah.
Let's be clear that I also liken him to trying to be Moneyball, Billy Bean Moneyball.
Yeah.
But I call him also he's the C+ student in a Moneyball class. So on a good day, and because that didn't work either. That had its exact same ceiling. You get into the playoffs and you're out.
Yeah.
If you look at the World Series between the Dodgers and the Blue Jays, what got their asses through those games, or even into the World Series? They had hitting. They could summon up hitting to get them going, to get them to win a game, to have a comeback. The Tigers had none of that. And I will tell you, people say, oh, Scott Harris has done wonders for the development. Who the fuck has he developed?
Right.
Has he developed one fucking player? Not a single one yet. Pitcher or anybody else. That's literally, he's living off of Al Avila's
No, that's true.
people.
You
He
can't
hasn't
deny that,
fucking
yeah.
developed anybody.
That's true.
So I don't care why I don't get why people are saying like, who he's great for. It's like when they used to talk about George W. Bush being, he's good on the war on terror. No, he fucking made that up. So just because he talks about it a lot doesn't mean he's any good at it. So yeah, like, and to roll your dice on prospects. One prospect after another, that's nuts. That's just stupid. I mean, he's spending most of his time looking at relievers. Fine, you rely on relievers way too much. You're spending time looking for the shittiest players on any team outside of a utility field. They're not starters. They're not starter quality guys. They're relievers. They come in for 59 innings, maybe 50 to 70 innings a year.
Yeah.
It's like, that's it. That's it. And
well,
you're
to
not-
be quite frank with you, I know that we talk a lot about, I mean, not we necessarily, but people in baseball talk a lot. They still hang their hat. People in baseball, there are still people in baseball, and obviously Scott Harris is one of them, unfortunately, who still hang their hat on pitching. The days of the power pitcher where you'd have a guy go 7, 8, there's only a few of those guys around, number one. These guys who can consistently, Scubal's of the world. Scubal and players of his ilk, who are in that circle of pitchers. There's not too many of those kind of guys, number one. That's the first thing. Number two, it's all about offense now. This is a game built on offense. It's not a game built on pitching so much. I know it's, you can. It's nice to have those guys that can mow the other team down, and I understand that. But a guy like Scubal pitches once every 5 games. They don't have much of a rotation around him, a really consistent rotation around him. Okay, that's the first thing. Secondly, it's about offense. It's about bats, and that's where the game is won now. It's not won with pitching. It really isn't.
Yep.
It's not won with bullpens. I hate to tell you, it's really not. I mean, here's what I'm trying to say. Because every team's got these guys that they can come out of the bullpen throwing 95 miles an hour, 98 miles an hour. Everyone has them, even the bad teams. Everybody has these guys coming out of the bullpen throwing heat. Everyone does. I mean, that's just the way it is now. So now you've got to combat that with hitters. And the Tigers' hitters are overmatched way too often by these, and not just by these fireballing relievers, by starters who are mid-starters. How many times have we watched the Tigers get dog walked by a guy coming in the game with a 5.83 ERA? And then his pitching line for the day is 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 run. How many times does that happen against the Tigers? It's about hitting. You need offense. And for some reason, Harris is still stuck in this mode of, I'm going to pitch my way to the promised land. and that's not the way the game is played today. I wish, quite frankly, I wish there was more emphasis on pitching, because I like that kind of a game. But right now, it's not. It's about hitting the baseball, and more importantly, hitting the baseball out of the ballpark. And the Tigers don't do that enough either. So I just feel I get a really queasy feeling about this, because I don't think Harris is going anywhere. Number one, that's the first thing. Secondly, I just don't think his approach is the right one. I think he's stuck in some weird parallel universe that doesn't exist in terms of how to build a baseball team.
It feels like in football, if you need skill players on your offense and you're worried about your practice squad roster.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
You really? It's like...
Yeah, you're looking for the next Tom Kennedy. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And, so...
Oh, yeah, it's
just frustrating because it's like, all right, your fucking approach isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, the one thing that sort of clouds everything else is the fact that they made the playoffs 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
That just kind of prolongs all the agony of him being the president of the team.
It's like Tampa Bay, make the playoffs. Yeah.
Hell, even 2 years ago, as we even said, as much fun as this is, pitching chaos is not sustainable.
Right.
And here we are 2 years later, and it's all about the bullpen. Yeah. Oh, and don't forget, they did add a starter, but he's out of the KBO, Korean baseball, with Drew Anderson. A 31-year-old guy who's probably I think the pitching depth, but again, that's not a guy who moves the needle. You just signed yourself another fifth starter, who if all pans out, he gives you league average production at best. So yeah, it's a long off season, and maybe some stuff will happen. Right now, though, the tea leaves, the magic 8 ball, whatever you want to call it, are pointing all signs say to this is what it is. So, all right, I think it's time to get the hell out of here. So before we call it a night, that means it's time for our jerk of the week. Nick, you get to go first. Who's your jerk of the week?
I am going to go with so the Heisman Trophy was announced last Saturday, and it was won by the quarterback at Indiana, Mendoza.
Yes. Every time I hear that name, I want to do the Simpsons thing. I'm sorry.
Go for it. And, there's nothing bad happens quoting the Simpsons.
Yeah.
But the second place person was the quarterback out of Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia, I think is the last name.
Yep.
And apparently afterwards, he posted on Instagram because he was pissed that he lost. And he lost by a wide margin, the widest margin in several years. But he basically put out an Instagram post saying, fuck you to the voters of the Heisman.
Yep.
And so I looked up who votes for the Heisman because I was curious. And it turns out it's 870 members of the media. Mm-hmm. It is all living Heisman Trophy winners, which right now that number is 57 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently one fan gets the vote.
Okay. I didn't know that.
It's like,
wow.
Well, that's according to AI told me that. It's like, I want to know who that fan is. How the hell did he get on that list? But so he he said fuck you to like over 900 people basically.
Yes.
And including Heisman Trophy winners. And so, which was to me kind of a you're full of it sort of thing to do, and like classless and stupid. Now I think I saw a headline where he apologized for that, but
he did. He posted a social media apology that was obviously not written by him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which doesn't surprise me because if he's that stupid to write something like that, he's probably not smart enough to write something for real.
Exactly.
So my jerk of the week is Diego Pavia for kind of just being a dick. So. Yeah,
it's a shame because the kid was a great story, doing what he did with Vanderbilt, of all teams, Vanderbilt. But yeah, the more he's gotten exposed, the more the kid's a douchebag. You know, an entitled douchebag, unfortunately. So yeah, that was actually you took mine away, so I have to find another. I have another one in mind. So, but that was going to be mine. So, all right, Greg, who's your jerk of the week?
That was going to be mine as well. That's got to be the first time all three of us picked the same.
We got a trifecta here.
Yes.
That's funny. I had a feeling that somebody else might pick that one, but that's okay because I have a backup one as well. And it's not as sexy as that one. It's not as fun as that one. But the Indianapolis Colts. And you say, why the Indianapolis Colts? What's wrong with them? Well, they have a chance. They had a surprisingly good season, as you know. They've been very competitive in the AFC. Still have a shot at the playoffs. It's true. Now, why I'm giving them the Jerk of the Week award is because for plucking 44-year-old Phillip Rivers out of a 5-year retirement to play quarterback. Now, granted, Rivers did okay. He almost led them to victory over the Seahawks. That's true. But now Shane Steichen, their coach, is committed, looks like, to Rivers again for the Monday night game. I don't know why the Colts. I know that Daniel Jones is hurt. Anthony Richardson's hurt. Why they couldn't find someone else other than a 44-year-old guy to come out of a 5-year retirement in a situation where they have a shot at making the playoffs. Now, I remember Steve DeBerg. You remember Steve DeBerg, Al. He played it.
Yes.
He was like 42, 43 as well.
Yep.
But
I remember Steve DeBerg.
DeBerg was never retired.
Yeah.
He just kept playing.
Yeah.
This guy, Rivers, has been out since 2019, essentially.
He's a grandfather.
And so he's doing a Jordan Blanda thing here. I mean, if the Colts were not going anywhere and they just, they were 5-9 instead of 8-6, I could get on board with it. I just don't know why they put themselves in a situation. There's no other quarterback in the NFL pantheon that they could have brought in and tried. I know there's a lot of starters out there or try to trade for or sign off the waiver wire who's in his 20s, let alone a guy who's 44, and he's already kind of hurt. They said, he took some hits. Not sure how his body's going to respond. I mean, why would you put yourself in that situation? These are big football games. These are not, playing out the string games. These are games where the Colts could make the playoffs if they're kind of in the line situation. If they win out, they can make the playoffs. So now they're entrusting, this season, bounce back season, and I know they've been hit by injury, but I don't know why an NFL team puts themselves in a position where they have to drag a guy who's been retired for 5 years out of, and he just signed with the practice squad on the 10th of December. Yeah. So it's not like he's been with the team since September and working out. They just signed him to the squad December 10th, and four days later he's starting against the Seahawks. I don't know how they put themselves in that situation, but so my jerk of the week are the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, if there's one thing that proves that there's not enough qualified quarterbacks in the world, it's Phillip Rivers being signed out of 4 years of retirement. And the funniest thing I heard about the whole thing was, he just restarted his Hall of Fame clock.
Yeah, right.
I don't think he's getting into the Hall of Fame regardless, but yeah. But I'm with you there. I do feel for the Colts because they went all in, by trading for Sauce Gardner and and getting the career season out of Danny Dimes, and it's all falling apart for them. So be it. All right, my jerk of the week, since Nick took mine as well, I'm going to stay in the college football realm with the college football pundit class, and I'm sure you know the type of guys I'm talking about. And they are all over the place right now, bemoaning the fact that Tulane and James Madison are in the playoffs. They are the two hot. They are the group of 5 teams that managed to make it into the playoffs instead of a Power 4 team. And you have guys like Joel Klatt and the like saying they aren't one of the 12. Neither one of these teams are one of the 12 best teams in football. They should not be in the playoff. And don't those guys get it that one of the reasons the NCAA basketball tournament is so goddamn popular is because teams like that do win games occasionally and make runs? And I don't know about you guys, but I would rather watch James Madison or Tulane play in the playoff than watch the fourth place team in the SEC play, whoever that might have been.
Yeah.
Or the fourth or fifth place. More like I should say the sixth place team in the SEC or the fourth place team in the Big Ten. You're talking about a team like Michigan for Christ's sake or something. Right. And just the arguments over who got in and why did Alabama make it in and Notre Dame didn't and all that crap. It almost gets me back to the point where I miss the days where all the conferences had a bowl affiliation, and the voters just voted at the end of the year and said, "Okay, here's our national champion." It was a much simpler, less angry time, I guess is the best way to put it. And it's exhausting seeing the constant arguing over who should get in the playoff. And making it all worse is that stupid Tuesday television show where they named the playoff rankings for the last 8 weeks, whatever it is, which is absolutely ridiculous because the committee can change the order at a whim, and that's essentially what they reportedly did when Miami got in and Notre Dame didn't, however the hell it went. Who cares? So my jerk of the week are the college football pundit class who seem to make a living on just keeping everybody agitated and angry and pissed off and saying things like, essentially insulting two schools who all they did was win enough games to meet the standards that was set by the rules. So that's my jerk of the week. Yeah, it's aggravating to see all that. I just start playing football again so these guys will shut up. And God forbid, I hope these two teams give them a game or actually win one so it'll even shut them up even more.
It's funny because they expanded the playoffs for just because a lot of good teams got cut out of the 4-team playoff.
Yep. Yeah. And then people are still pissed.
Exactly.
Except now the number 5 team being pissed, it's the number 13 team being pissed. So, that's a great point. So, but thanks for stealing our jerk of the week, Nick. That's much appreciated. So,
what scares me is we all think alike.
Yeah, no kidding there. That's the more terrifying part right there.
Which one of us should feel the most insulted?
All right, I think it's a good time to start getting out of here. So
we should all have just kept their jerk of the week the same and just had different takes on the same topic.
Yeah, really. Yeah, but the same take. We all would have said, Diego's a douchebag, and I would have ended it right there. The show would be over by now. So, All right, let's get out of here. So, Greg, could you please remind everybody where they can find us on social media and all that kind of fun stuff. Do what you always do.
Yeah, okay. Follow me on X at Greg Eno, and also the Knee Jerks at the Knee Jerks. More importantly, I would appreciate it if you subscribe to my Substack, gregeno.substack.com. I'll be in your inbox every Monday. I would appreciate that. Check out the latest piece, which is about Brad Holmes and the Detroit Lions. I want to thank my lovely wife, Sharon, for putting up with this nonsense every 2 weeks. And thank you, gentlemen, for making Monday night so gosh darn fun.
Yes. Nick, let people know where they can find you online.
Yep, very simple. I'm at Nick Milanovich on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I refuse to actually call it X.
Yep.
But, it's same location. That's where I'll talk about sports and share memories of tragic Detroit sports years gone by and talk about currently what's happening. So, yeah.
All right. As always, we appreciate your listenership, and please like, share, and subscribe to the show. We can find pretty much anywhere podcasts are aggregated. That would be things like places like Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music, Deezer, Radio Public. Any place podcasts are found, you can find the Knee Jerks. You just need to do a search for the Knee Jerks podcast, the Knee Jerks of Eno, Nick, and Big Al, so on and so forth. Please like, share, and subscribe. We also live stream video of every show to YouTube and Twitch. The YouTube links stay live essentially forever, and Twitch is be up on Twitch for a couple weeks. Homepage is, of course, thekneejerks.net. Links to everything we talk about will be found there, along with all the social media stuff. You can download the MP3 from there. TheKneeJerks.net, which is updated after every episode. All right, I think it's time to get the hell out of here. So I guess we'll be back in 2 weeks unless we're taking the holiday week off, but we haven't said anything about it. I guess we'll talk about that after the show. So until, first off, let's say happy holidays, everybody. Merry Christmas. Enjoy the season. I know I'm going to do my best. For us, it starts this coming weekend. So, but hopefully we'll see you in 2 weeks. If not, we'll see you after New Year. We'll follow us on social media. We'll let you know for sure. But until that time, this is Al Beaton saying good evening, good luck, and aloha, along with Nick Milanovich.
Good night, guys.
And, of course, our own Mr. Substack, Greg Eno.
Ciao, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks, hopefully.
Yes.